You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Armchair Cricket Podcast, a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. My co-host Giridhar has been unavoidably detained elsewhere, so I'll be your host for today. Continuing with our World Cup digests, covering latest matches and news. In today's digest, we wanted to cover the match between Pakistan and Sri Lanka that was to be played at Bristol. But as we are aware, this match has been rained out without a single ball being bowled. So in its place, we have a special segment today for you. Going forward, we have a special guest today, Abdullah from the Down the Ground podcast. Hello Abdullah, welcome to the show.
Hi Ajit, thanks for having me on the show. It's great. It's the first time I've been part of the Armchair podcast, and it's great to collaborate with you guys. So let's get into discussing the World Cup. बहुत सारी चीजें हुई हैं, and I think we have a lot to discuss.
Indeed. So we are also very happy to have you on the show, and indeed, previously we've also collaborated with your colleague Arham from Down the Ground, and it has been a real pleasure to have another one of you back on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So if you were to look at how Pakistan has been doing at the World Cup, let's just quickly look at their performances. So their first match they lost against West Indies, where they were 105 all out. But in the next match, they were able to bounce back and beat England comprehensively. The match that was scheduled for yesterday, the match between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, was washed out without a single ball being bowled due to rain at Bristol. So from an overall perspective, what do you say about how Pakistan are doing, Abdullah?
I think the first match was a disaster, but the second match was a good comeback by Pakistan, but the washout against Sri Lanka could prove to be quite costly because Pakistan has a very strong record against Sri Lanka in World Cups. I believe it's 7-0, 7 wins, 0 losses. So this is the first time Sri Lanka have actually managed to avoid a loss to Pakistan in World Cups. So the additional point would have been very useful because there's some strong teams that Pakistan has to play next. The next two matches are against Australia and India. Right. So overall, I think the first match was a disaster, mainly I feel due to nerves and due to not being able to cope with the situation and not adapting quickly enough. But in the second match, it was a good display and also helped by some poor display by England in the field. Pakistan pulled off a victory, which was very commendable. Yeah. But I feel that the Sri Lanka no result is quite a setback.
Of course. Well, I mean, first of all, I think breaking the way the 10-11 match losing sequence was broken by Pakistan is really commendable, right? And that too, they upset the form book, right? They beat the form team or the most favorite team in the World Cup are currently England, and they beat them fairly comfortably, it must be said. Look, for me, England were a bit odd in the field. They were not really comfortable. It was visible. But that was mainly because of the way Pakistan batted. Because, in that match, Mohammad Hafiz played a very special innings. He had one drop catch, but that goes your way. On your day, you get a lucky break, and he got that, and he made the most of it. Babar Azam played a really good innings that day, and Imamul Haq and Fakhar Zaman had set a nice platform, right? But for me, one of the key roles was played by Sarfraz Ahmed. He was not looking comfortable at all, but he made sure that he kept the scoring rate up and kept turning the scoring rate over with Hafiz and even with Asif Ali and others, because even though he did not look really comfortable, he was not looking to, get all his strokes off the middle of the bat, and he was a bit iffy, but it doesn't matter because he kept the scoring rate up there, and that's why England were under pressure. So I would like to credit the Pakistani batting lineup there. Right. And when it comes to the bowling, I was really happy to see that Pakistan fire of old, the fast bowling fire of old with Wahab Riaz and Amir, going into the last 5 overs, even though England stood a chance, they had hitters and everything. Somehow, it felt that this Pakistan will not give up the match, and they didn't. So it was fantastic to see that. So I would like to definitely say, the way they rolled back, it was a really good performance from Pakistan. Don't you think so?
Yeah, it was definitely a team performance. Everyone stood up and played their part, and there was no one player who's made a big 100 or took a five or something.
Right.
It was a very complete performance in all facets. They were in fielding. There were a couple of missed chances like Babar Azam dropping a catch, but overall it was a much better display than they've put up in recent times, and more towards what we know this team is capable of. It's actually a quite a decent fielding unit. But since Steve Rickson's departure, they've fallen by the wayside a little, but it's much improved in the last game, and hopefully it keeps improving further.
Indeed.
Similarly, with the batting, I think that the batsmen played their roles well. They took responsibility. And when one wicket fell, then the next batsman came in and he played his part, and that continued throughout the innings, which enabled Pakistan to get to a very large total, despite
Of course.
only Mohammad Hafiz making 84, and then the next highest score was 60 odd. So everyone
Hmm.
played a role, and like you said, Sarfaraz's innings down the order was also crucial because Asif Ali fell after making just a few runs. So those
Indeed.
50 from Sarfaraz were crucial, and that enabled the sloggers at the end to come and to make quick fire 20s and 10s or whatever. So that
Hmm.
dragged the score out to a total beyond what England were probably comfortable chasing, because post-match Pakistan, from the Pakistan side, they were saying that they were aiming for a total of 340. So
Right.
they were very comfortable with a total of 348. They felt that they had achieved a total that was defendable. And then the
Hmm.
bowlers, of course, they played their part with everyone chipping in. All the bowlers bowled well. Even Hassan Ali, who didn't pick up any wickets, he bowled a pretty good spell in the middle overs and kept the runs down. And Hafiz, Malik, and also picked up crucial wickets, while Amir and Wahab were impressive as well. So
Indeed.
yeah, overall a very good team performance, and need more of these performances to beat teams like Australia and India, who will be very tough opponents to deal with for Pakistan.
For sure. So, yeah, when it comes to the bowling, you've already credited Amir and Wahab for sure. I would also like to credit Shadab Khan, the other spinner, right? I think he did a wonderful job in the middle overs. So,
Yeah,
for example,
yeah.
Root getting out
I
was
forgot Shadab, but yeah, you're right. He had a very crucial role to play.
indeed. Now, the way he got, first of all, Jason Roy out at the beginning,
Mm,
and
mm,
also the way he worked Root out. So, if you remember what happened in that over, I think there were five dot balls in the fifth ball, Root was
yeah,
out, right? So,
yeah.
that was purely down to the way Shadab bowled to get him out, and of course, a bit of good field placing. Knowing that the cut will go a bit finer or a bit squarer. That was nicely done there. So that's how he took the wicket there. So also I thought, Sarfraz as a skipper can be given a bit of credit. He had the right people bowling at the right time, and the bowlers were sort of empowered. They were not afraid to go for the runs because there was enough of a total, but also, they were really looking for wickets there. They knew that there's not a lot that this England team can't, will not be able to chase down. So
Yeah, you
they
just
took
have to keep
wickets.
going at them and looking for wickets, otherwise they can chase or score any amount of runs.
Precisely, precisely. Indeed. So that was indeed a wonderful comeback. Now, well, a couple of things that I thought I could bring up. One is Imamul Haq and his, I think he has a love-hate relationship with the Pakistani fans, right? I think they hate him and he loves them or whatever. So he's called Parchi. Unfortunately, it's not a nice term to be associated with because it's not his fault. He's the chief selector's nephew, but he's done his bit, I would say. Do you think he deserves his place in the Pakistani team right now, and or are there any better alternatives that you think could have been in the squad?
Well, this is quite a heavy topic, but I do feel that once a player has put up performances like Imam ul Haq has, then you have to you have to provide a very solid reason for criticizing him or for wanting him out of the team. And I think that most of his critics lack that solid foundation upon which they can build an argument, because the fact is that Pakistan's previous openers, if we look back to, for example, the 2015 World Cup, where in the first match against India, Pakistan opened the batting with a disastrous opening pair of Ahmed Shehzad and Yunus Khan. So you
Right.
have to appreciate where Pakistan has come 4 years later, 4 years onwards, in terms of
Mm.
the batting. And even though Imam ul Haq's strike rate may not be like, for example, Jason Roy or some of those big hitting batsmen who are opening the batting nowadays, for a
Mm.
team like Pakistan, which is quite reliant on its top order, having a batsman who can bat for a good amount of time and who can churn out the runs at a consistent rate
Right.
and do so without, it's not like he's striking in the 70s. His strike rate is around 80. So it's
Mm.
not quite at an optimum level. It's not where it should be, and he has room for improvement. But based on that little difference, for example, Babar Azam strikes at around 85. So based
Right.
on that little difference, you cannot say that he shouldn't be in the team and that others should be in the team until you provide an alternative. And currently, I don't see any alternative who can play the same role at as successfully as he is doing so. We had Sharjeel Khan before, who was what you'd call a modern day opener. Since his
Right.
return to the Pakistan team, he was averaging around 40 and striking at 130, which
Right.
is which is really quite impressive and comparable to the top openers that there are nowadays in ODI cricket.
Mm.
But the fact is that Pakistan do not have a similar player of that caliber. The most of the players who top the charts in domestic cricket are players who have been given a chance in ODI cricket and have failed. And then
Right.
there are some with poor techniques, poor temperament, and there's no real standout option to replace Imam. So I
All right.
think that I think that in terms of his performances, he definitely deserves his spot, and people who criticize him should look for answers rather than just throw out criticism without any solution. Like my criticism of Imam ul Haq is always that he needs to rotate the strike more in the first 10 overs. He needs to find more avenues of hitting boundaries because he relies too much on charging out against the pacers and slogging. So
Right.
these are
Right.
these are things that he can work on. But simply saying Pachi this and Pachi that and he should be out of the team and Inzamam is his uncle or whatever, that's not constructive and it's not helpful in any way.
Agreed. Agreed. So I take it you're in the camp that he deserves his place, and of course, as everybody else, he can improve. That's not going to stop, right? That's right.
Definitely.
So, all right. The next topic I wanted to discuss with you is, the lower middle order balance, right? So usually, you have at number four, you would have somebody like Hafiz, a more experienced batter, right? Or you may have somebody like Haris Sohail, who's done a reasonably good job in the middle order as well, right? He's batted at three, he's batted at four, but with Babar coming back, I think Babar deserves his place at three. So the top three is sort of set. But in the middle to lower middle order, you have options like, well, either Shoaib Malik can play or somebody like Asif Ali may play. Because if Shoaib Malik doesn't play, somebody like Imad Wasim may be fitted into the squad. So what is your thought on this?
I think this is quite a topic of contention amongst Pakistani fans because no one really has a set thought process about this. People have different solutions. I
Hmm.
think what Pakistan needs to do is to keep it a little flexible and to play against and to have a lower middle order based on the opposition and the conditions. So, for example, Shoaib Malik played against England because he provided an extra off-spinning option.
Right.
And England have a lot of left-handers, as we know, in their middle order. And he got the man of the match from the previous game, Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes
Hmm.
was England's man of the match in their first match, and he got him out cheaply. So
Indeed.
that was a good tactical move, and also he does provide some calmness on the field. But
Yeah.
you have to look at the opposition and see what the chances are of someone like Shoaib Malik doing well. So, for
Right.
example, against Australia and India, Australia do not have that many left-handers in their middle order, and neither do India. And both are very pace-heavy. They're both, well, not pace-heavy. India has spinners as well, but
Mm.
both have a good group of pacers. And Shoaib Malik has been very suspect against good pace bowling throughout his career. So I don't think it would be wise to play him against teams like Australia and India. So in the next few games.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you have to look at the strength and weakness of the lineup and the opposition, and base your lineup based on the conditions and the opposition.
Of course. So, how about Imad Wasim? I mean, I think he also brings an all-round quality and sort of a finishing skill to the end of the innings. But they also say he's a bit susceptible against the slower, or rather the shortest bowling, isn't it?
Yeah, Imad Waseem is an interesting case. If you look at his statistics in ODIs, his batting looks very good because he has good statistics. But if you dig deeper, then you'll find that if he was ever needed to step up in a large chase, he has largely failed.
Right.
And he has not really played many innings of note. Like, for example, most teams around the world in their lower order have batsmen who can strike at 120, 140, something like that. I think Imad Wasim is more suited to batting in the middle order, and that's a problem with Pakistan because we don't really have anyone besides Asif Ali who is suited to batting in the lower order and who can slog and get runs at in the death overs. So we have to rely more on the conventional batsmen to do the job. So
Right.
for Imad Wasim, it's a bit of a puzzler, and I think he was benched because his bowling has been quite toothless recently. So he hasn't been picking up any wickets, especially not against good teams. He
Mm.
has a history of picking up wickets against West Indies, who struggle against spin and weaker teams like that. But against stronger teams, he doesn't spin the ball really, so they tend to find ways to deal with him. And then his batting becomes crucial, and again against stronger teams, it's a little suspect, especially as you mentioned his capabilities against short bowling. He's quite woeful in that regard. So,
Right.
but still, he's a handy squad option to have. But there's lots of combinations that can be used. If they want to use five bowlers, then count Imad Wasim as one of them, then that's the only option they have for five bowler lineup. Otherwise, they have to go with four bowlers and part timers like Hafiz, Malik, and even Haris Sohail, who can do a decent job as a fifth bowler.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. So the next question I had to put to you was the fast bowling component, right? So the spinners are fairly set with Shadab Khan probably being the first choice spinner. And with Hafiz
Yes.
playing, I think he'll always back him up. So that's always very good. And they offer, wrist and finger spin options. So
Yes.
then with the fast bowling component, you have Wahab and Amir playing really well for now, right? And Hassan Ali is going through a bit of a trough. It's not like he's bowling really badly, but it looks like he's not up to the best that he can be. That's one thing.
Yes, definitely.
And do you see Hasnain having a role probably in the upcoming matches?
For the fast bowling, I think Amir and Wahab are mostly playing because of their experience, and they bring some level-headedness to what is otherwise quite a young bowling attack. So they provide some big match temperament. Both Wahab has quite a good record in World Cups, while Amir has always had a pretty good record in big matches. So that's
Right.
the reason they're playing, and they've both performed pretty well so far. As
All
for
right.
Hassan Ali, I think he's going through a rough phase, but I feel that he's improving. But at the end of the day, what will matter is wickets in the wickets column, and that's where Hassan Ali has struggled in recent times. He
Mm-hmm.
hasn't really picked up wickets like he was in 2017 around the Champions Trophy and during that period in towards the end of 2017 where he became the number one ODI bowler. He's now dropped quite a lot in the rankings, and that's because he hasn't been able to perform consistently.
Right. Right.
So it's quite. There's two other spacers in the squad: the Shaheen Shah Afridi and Mohammad Hasnain. I think Mohammad Hasnain could have been given a chance yesterday against Sri Lanka, because to see how he's going on these tracks and to see what sort of effect he can have, because as we've seen in the matches so far, pacers who bowl fast are doing really well. Like we've seen Jofra Archer and Mitchell Stark and some of these other guys who have quite a bit of pace. They've been doing pretty well.
Right.
So I was thinking that Pakistan might want to include Hasnain, but I just feel that with the next two matches against Australia and India, they wouldn't risk throwing in Hasnain with considering his lack of experience. Maybe Shaheen Shah Afridi might play because he he has a little more experience. He's played a couple of editions of PSL, and also he has played a few series in terms of ODIs. So he might get a look in, but he has been very expensive in England during the ODIs against England and even the warm up against Afghanistan. So maybe he's just been given some time to recover. But Shaheen Shah Afridi firing on all cylinders would be very good for the Pakistan team, because he tends to pick up wickets with the new ball, something that Pakistan are lacking. So
Right.
I'm not sure what the combination will be going forward, but I'm thinking that with strong teams like Australia and India coming up next, they will try to retain the current group of bowlers.
All right. So that's a very interesting take you have, and thanks for providing your inputs for that. Now, looking forward to the matches from Pakistan's perspective. So they're going to face, I think first they'll be facing Australia. So they'll be playing Australia, and then they'll be playing India. So on they'll be facing Australia on the 17th at Taunton, and then they'll be facing India. So what are your thoughts on this? How do you see Pakistan progressing for the rest of the group stage matches?
Well, for the Taunton match against Australia, once again, rather disappointingly, there seems to be a lot of rain forecast, so that's quite well, it depends on the perspective, because some people are happy about that because Australia is a strong team and 1 point would be good. But I personally always want to see a cricket match,
Right.
so I'm hoping we get a match at Taunton. Taunton is, I believe, one of the smaller grounds in England, but it's also one of the most spin-friendly ones. So I'm not exactly sure how to read that, because while Pakistan do have spinners who can strangle Australia, Australia also have the likes of Lyon and Zampa, who are both very good spinners. And as Pakistan showed in the Asia Cup, they are perhaps not so well equipped to deal with spin at the moment. The
Right.
batsmen are a little suspect against spin, so it could go either way. They could, if they have a good day, they can do what they did against England and then choke Australia, or it could go the other way, and Australia's spinners could come to the fore and Pakistan might struggle. So it's quite a puzzler. I think it'll be a good match because Australia is a good team and Pakistan are on a high right now.
Right.
But I just hope we get a match in. I hope that it isn't rained out like the Sri Lanka one.
All right. If it were to be a shortened game because of some rain, but some overs lost to rain and so on, what do you think? Would you then probably favor Pakistan, or then would Australia be the favorites?
I think I'd go with Australia because they have in the likes of David Warner and Maxwell and all these guys, they have a very good lineup for if the match was to be shortened, and they have very good bowlers as well. There's no stand. They're a good team. They don't have a star like perhaps like Kohli or Butler, but they're a very good team overall, and they have a good bowling attack as well. And with Stark able to bowl Yorkers at the death and keep the runs down, and with Cummins being a very impressive bowler in all aspects, I think they'd have an advantage if the match were to be shortened.
Right. All right then. And then the marquee clash, India-Pakistan. So, whom do you think winning this match, or will it be Rain winning it? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, India, Pakistan in World Cups, it's usually a safe bet to go with India, but
Right?
I'm hopeful that that streak will come to an end eventually, and it may happen this year. You never know. I think India have a bit of a weakness in the middle order that can be exploited if you get the top three batsmen out. But getting the top three out itself is quite a task because, like we saw in the previous match, even if two of them fail, Rohit Sharma made a big 100 and he took India home. So getting all three of them is quite a task. And if you don't get all three of them, then they will find a way to put up a big total more often than not.
Right.
So I think that the key to doing well against India is to bowling well with the new ball and getting wickets up front. Just
Mm,
like it is with England also, you have to strike early against them and you have to keep picking up wickets. And I think that you have to do the same for India.
mm,
And even when you do that, they have a very potent bowling attack with the two spinners and Bumrah providing wicket-taking options pretty much throughout the innings. So
right.
Pakistan, I feel they do have a chance of beating India, but I feel that they'll have to put in a very, very strong performance in all facets. With the bat, they would have to get a good start and avoid losing too many early wickets, which is a challenge against the likes of Bumrah. And
Mm,
then they would have to consolidate well in the middle overs and also then provide a good finish, and then the bowlers would have to perform better than they have in the recent past. I believe despite the display against England, the bowlers still have a lot of room for improvement, and Pakistan's bowling overall has been quite poor over the last couple of years. So it
all
would
right.
be very important for the bowling to do well if Pakistan were to beat India.
All right. I think one way or the other, I'm really hoping there will be a match and Rain doesn't win that day. And may the best team win for that day, right? And you're probably right. I would also back India going into the match simply because of the history. But on its day, we all know how good Pakistan can be. So that's how I think I'm only expecting a cracker of a match, and may the best team win, right?
Yeah, I just hope both teams can hold their nerves. I think India is a very experienced team, so that won't be a problem for them. But Pakistan's team, some of the batsmen are quite young, and the bowling attack is also a little on the younger side. So it's really a matter of holding your nerves and being able to execute your skills as per the plan. If you can't do that, then you don't stand a chance. So that's what the players really have to focus on, have clarity of mind and be able to play the match rather than think about too much thought about the opposition is not really helpful. If you start thinking that they have all these big players, then you defeat yourself mentally. So you have to
Agreed.
go and play it as any other match, and you also have to hold your nerves, even though that may be difficult with a billion people watching, but you have to do what you have to do as a professional sportsman.
Agreed. So, how do you see Pakistan really going with the rest of the group stages and rest of the matches of the group stage? I meant, and do you see them qualifying for the semi-finals? Maybe.
I think that, like I mentioned earlier, the no result against Sri Lanka is quite a blow. So it basically means Pakistan needs to win four of the remaining six games. I think that's the equation, and that would give them a total of 11 points, which would put them in a position to qualify based on depending on the other team's results. So I feel that Pakistan has to win one of the next two games against India and Australia. These are two very tough games, but
Mm,
with good performances, it's possible to win either of them. And I really feel that Pakistan has to win one of these to be able to mentally be in a frame of mind of qualifying. It's not the 1992 team that you lose all the matches and then you have to win the last four, and you do that, and like it happened in 1992, I don't think this team is capable of doing that. I think
right.
they need to win the next one of the next two games to have the confidence and and the strength of will and character to go into the last 4 matches that would be remaining. And then you need to probably win 3 of those, and then you have a chance of getting to the semi-finals. And even that is difficult because all the teams are doing pretty well. Only Afghanistan is the team that has really struggled quite a lot, and also South Africa. But South Africa on their day can also do well.
Right.
So Bangladesh and New Zealand, out of the last 4 matches, they would be very tough competitors, and so you can counting on your team to win the last 4 matches. If you were to lose these next 2 ones, would be quite a big ask. That's why I feel they need to win one of these next 2 games.
All right. Also, I mean, if we were to look at the overall, the standing as it stands now, the table. So New Zealand and Australia are right on top, having won 2 of their matches, and at least New Zealand has a really good net run rate as well. Sri Lanka are third, 3 matches, 1 win and one no result, right? Pakistan also shared third, but Sri Lanka are third because they have a slightly better net run rate. West Indies have 2 played and good run rate, but have lost 1 and won 1. England same. India have played 1 and just won the game, and Bangladesh 2 played, 1 lost, 1 win, but they have just a positive net run rate very close to 0. South Africa and Afghanistan are right at the bottom. South Africa playing 3, losing 3, and Afghanistan playing 2 and losing 2. So from here, whom do you see as the teams qualifying for the semi-finals? Who are your, let's say, sure bets?
I think that first of all, what we need to acknowledge is that this is a very competitive World Cup, and perhaps a little more competitive than people were expecting, because the way West Indies have performed in their first couple of games shows that they are one of the teams that can be considered as a team that can make it to the semis. And Australia, we have the usual suspects: England, Australia, and India, who most people would back to reach the semi-finals. So I feel that England, Australia, and India will make it to the semi-finals, and the fourth team I am very unsure about. It could be West Indies, New Zealand, Bangladesh, even Pakistan. It's quite an open World Cup, I think, and even once the semi-finals start, anything can happen. You just have to be better than the opponent on the day. So
Right.
I think that I I'm making no predictions about who will win or anything right now, because I feel that it's a very open and it will be a hotly contested World Cup, especially in the latter stages.
Right. I think come the end of June, it'll be a really, really exciting time if you're a cricket fan, because all the matches will be very interesting and a lot will
Yes,
ride on each of them. Right. So let's see how that goes. So now, if you were to look at a little bit outside the World Cup, you told me you've had a chance to be part of the, let's say, the media contingent at the PSL. So with that in mind and other things, what can you tell us some of your pleasant memories when you're covering PSL?
yeah, PSL was a very good experience to be at in terms of I'm in Karachi, so the national stadium for most of the matches, it was completely packed. So the atmosphere was great, and it was really pleasing to see a lot of stars coming to Pakistan for cricket, and to see good quality cricket being played in a packed stadium, something that's not happened in Pakistan for a while, besides the few matches against World 11 and these the fixtures that we had in between. So
Right.
having 8 matches, 8 PSL matches in Pakistan at a stretch it was an enthralling experience, and I think that Pakistan has a lot of potential in terms of what we can achieve if uh, if things can improve in terms of firstly the security aspect, which will encourage other teams to tour Pakistan. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. It's a long process. It's not going to happen overnight that you just have a secure country where people are willing to come and visit you. But I think that steps are being taken, the right measures are being taken to do that. And with that being said, I also think that it's very important, as we know, the PCB has a new administration ever since the government changed in Pakistan. So Ehsan Mani is the PCB chairman, and Waseem Khan has been recruited as the managing director. So he's responsible for quite a lot of the new things that are supposed to happen in PCB, which include things like a revamp of the domestic cricket system, which has been neglected for a very long time, and many other things. I think there's too many things to discuss here, but at the end of the day, Pakistan has a extremely cricket crazy population, because the other sports in Pakistan, they have, over time, interest has gone down in most of the other sports like hockey and what have you. So cricket is the one thing that has remained in the limelight, and sure, people do sometimes, some of the older generation might lose interest, but at the end of the day, when you have an India Pakistan match on 16th June, then
Right.
you'll see that how many people are watching that. So the interest in cricket is always there, and Pakistan has a population of more than 200 million. So I
Right.
think that if things were to improve, and the situation, if Pakistan's domestic cricket uh, could produce cricketers that are of good quality, rather than players coming to the team and having to do a lot to adapt to international cricket. If that was to improve, and things were to improve in terms of the marketing and the sponsors and everything, all these things that go hand in hand. So, as a cricketing nation, Pakistan has a lot of potential. But it
Right.
all depends on whether the right steps are taken to make the most of that potential. If you don't do that, then you can be stuck in a position where you're not getting the maximum out of Pakistan as a nation, as a cricketing nation. A lot of people say that cricket in Pakistan is finishing, but I don't think that is the case. I think that it's being destroyed currently by a very poor system, and a very something that's happened for decades, really, the neglect, and what's happened for that has caused it to come to this point. So I think the revamp, and Waseem Khan and what he does in terms of changing the outlook for Pakistan cricket are very crucial to our future.
Right. And I hope he's given the, let's say, the space as well as the opportunities to do that, because he brings fresh ideas and from a different system that work. Right. So,
Definitely.
all right. Thank you very much for your thoughts and your, opinions and sharing them with us. So, I would once again say, if you have any things that you would like to plug, any of your media work or whatever that you would like to plug here.
Yeah, you can follow Down the Ground. We have a website where we have all our latest interviews. We have interviews with former cricketers and current cricketers as well. So the website is downtheground.com, and you can get in touch with us at our social media pages, Down the Ground TW on Twitter, and facebook.com/Down the Ground. That's our Facebook page. And you can get in touch with us on any of these social media outlets if you have any ideas about what we can do going forward, and any ideas. We have regular episodes, and you can listen to those, and you can listen to the interviews, and just give us your feedback.
All right. Thanks a lot once again for being a part of the program, Abdullah.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right then. Going forward, let's look at the trivia questions. So the trivia question from the previous episode was, what is the highest score by a number 8 batter in World Cup matches? And it was a question that was sort of set to the context, because the highest score batting at number 8 by a batter is Nathan Coulter-Nile's 92 that he made against West Indies in that day's match. Right? As usual, we have the right answer from Yogesh, our keen listener and supporter. He's also provided a very good historical outlook on how batsmen at number 8 have fared. in the World Cups. So the record that Nathan Coulter-Nile broke was that of Heath Streak, who had made an unbeaten 72 against New Zealand in the World Cup 2003. Nathan Coulter-Nile's innings was also overall the joint second highest score from the number 8 position, along with Andre Russell, who struck an unbeaten 92 against India in the 2011 World Cup, with Chris Wokes topping the list with an unbeaten 95 against Sri Lanka in 2016. Alright then, the trivia question from this episode is that which current coaching staff member from the Sri Lankan team has previously worked with the Pakistani team? The clue to this is, if you have heard Abdullah's section very carefully, I think he may have mentioned this name there. You could get in touch with us for the answer or to share your thoughts and trivia through our social media platforms, for example via Twitter at armchair.cricket or via the Facebook page. Also, you could write into us at armchair.cricket@gmail.com. As always, we would like to say thank you to all our listeners and supporters who listen and also write in with their feedback. Please do subscribe to us and listen to our podcasts, and if possible discuss this with your cricket friends so that we can get some more inputs. Also, given that there are multiple matches coming up, not to say the least tomorrow's match between Australia and India, there will be plenty to look forward to. So I hope you do keep listening to our podcasts. Having said all that, it's a goodbye from me and him. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.